I mean, president of Coke International, that's a pretty big deal. How did you get to that level?
You're working for a company every day. Are you in it for yourself or are you in it for the company? And you say, all right, enough is enough. And you just break down. There's no way you can get through this business. What does growth mean? Becoming more capable, more impactful, and more resilient.
All right, everybody, we got another episode on deck with my buddy Ahmet. Ahmet, thank you for joining me. It's a pleasure to meet you. And I'd like for you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what you do, what you're all about.
Yay. Thank you, Bo. And it's my pleasure to be on your podcast. I'm a retired business executive. I retired about 9 years ago as president of Coke International. In that last role, I had the responsibility for all operating units outside of North America. But all throughout my career, I've been a passionate explorer of human potential because I've seen the benefit of that focus in business. Because every business is a people business, and if you create the conditions for people to flourish, then business does well. So this passion followed me in retirement. And while I've done some non-executive business roles and boards and some philanthropic activity, mentoring, and all of that, I have increasingly spent more time on human potential and tried to develop a model which allows which helps people grow organically through their everyday life. What's a
Mhm.
way of thinking about life and oneself that grows you naturally through everyday life? So I worked on that model for about 8 years, actually 4 full years, I would say, in terms of hours, and finally put it together in a book. And I'm about to launch that in October through Amazon. And I just continue to be fascinated with this, and that became my life. And I decided it'll be what I'm going to work on until the last minute.
Do you work with strictly executives or just even Gen Pop people, or what's your focus?
Oh, in my other roles, other than the ones that involved creating this book, because creating this book was a pretty much a solo effort with help from editors and writing coaches. Um, Outside of that, I've worked in company boards. I still have one, and some not for profit boards. Obviously, there are synergies between that two work. Once your mind is so busy with how people grow and what ways of thinking are growth ways of thinking. Yeah, you sort of see the synergies between the two. But this work of creating this book, which I call Soldiery, was pretty much an individual creative work.
That's awesome.
Mm.
I like to kind of go backwards and start from the beginning. I mean, president of Coke International, that's a pretty big deal. How did you rise the ranks in Coke to get to that level of executive level?
Yeah, well, I think everything in life is, half sort of circumstances and half your work. So the
Hmm.
circumstance part of that was I started my career in the U.S. working for Coke USA in a financial role. And I'm originally from Turkey, and company sent me back to Turkey at a time that Turkey was just flourishing and the global landscape around it was changing. I stayed in Turkey for 20 years, and I think that made a sort of a big difference in my career as the Turkish business grew and as the countries around Turkey grew, and as Turkish Coke Operation got more responsibility for managing those countries. I kept getting promoted during that period. So to give you an idea, when I arrived in Turkey, Turkey was probably like in a hundredth country around the world, in the world in terms of volume. By the time I left, I was responsible for 90 countries being managed out of Turkey, all of Africa, Russia, India, Middle East, um, uh, at some stage Eastern Europe. So it was those 20 years that I've spent in Turkey, that my career has experienced, continually bigger roles. At the end of which I was called to Atlanta to lead Coke International. So that's just a brief and fast summary of the 26 years with Coke.
That that fascinates me because, as someone who's a small business owner, a lot of people would love to get to that scale, right? To where maybe not even international, but even domestically, to be able to go from one location or selling one product to then scaling that product across the US or even internationally. What were some of the steps that you took to help Coke grow that business internationally and in Europe and even outside of Europe?
Yeah. Well, first, I was fortunate to be in Coke, which had a culture that valued sort of the richness of the different cultures around the world. So if you're going to do business in the Middle East, um, uh, you know, the culture of doing business there is not the same as Europe or is not the same as the United States. So for somebody like me,
Mhm,
who sort of grew up in a sort of an Eastern culture and also has experienced the Western culture and had worked in both, um, you're better positioned to adapt to the different cultures around the world. Um, so I guess the most important thing I try to do in growing the Coke business in these countries is to really work very effectively for all the different stakeholders in these countries. So Coke has this bottling system. Coca-Cola company doesn't, produce the bottles, doesn't distribute it. There are bottlers, bottling
mhm,
companies around the world. These are all local stakeholders in different countries, and being able to work with them in a collaborative way, in a win-win mindset. These go a long way because, again,
mhm,
I'm fortunate that Coke's bottling system is amazing. They're just incredible companies who are very competent in what they do. Coke is very competent in what it does, which is marketing and managing the franchise system. So it's that sort of bringing the local and global together and creating an environment where even though you're from different companies, you're working for the same goal. Yes, in this working relationship, you might have different trade-offs or conflicts and all of that, but seeing past beyond those and trying to create this one system approach, I'd say that was probably the thing that I really, really focused on, and I thought that worked for me in whichever country I went. If I went to Asia or Europe or Middle East or Central Asia, everywhere, because that's the common human dynamic, right? Everybody wants to do well. Everybody wants to be successful.
mhm,
We just sometimes get in our own
mhm,
way by not being able to work
mhm,
with each other. And if you remove those barriers,
mhm.
then things happen.
So if you were to do it all over again, and let's say you were kind of like starting to scale that side of a business or any business, what would be your first hire to help you get to the next level? Because it takes people, right? So what would be
Mhm.
your hire to get you to the next
Yeah.
level?
If we're assuming the same environment, because not every global business is the same. So, so
Mm,
just a small paragraph. Coke's global business is what I call it has both roots and tentacles in the individual countries. So you could have a business in the United States, and you could just be exporting stuff around the world, and you may be exporting to 50 countries, and you could call yourself a global business. That's a different business model than the one that at Coke, where you actually have a lot of people in a lot of countries, and some of these are people from different countries. In Turkey, you might have people from 10 different countries working together for
mm,
Coke. So if it was that kind of an environment, what I'd look for in a hire would be that kind of cultural adaptability, because at the end of the day, when you are a blue chip company, um, talent comes to you. It's not the technical skills, it's not the functional skills that really differentiate. It's what they call the
Mm,
soft skills, and one of the most important things is that be able to collaborate with different cultures effectively, be able to
mhm.
lead, make people want to follow you willingly. So I'd say, if you have in your leadership team enough of these qualities, then the rest sort of happens.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is it's like, again, as a small business owner, I think when you're smaller, I think one of your biggest challenges is there's so many different personalities that you deal with. Trying to find the right personality to help you grow your business, um, it's hard. It's hard because a lot of times, uh, owners, CEOs will hire people that, um, maybe match their own personality or match their ego, right? And then the ego gets in the way from you being able to scale. Like the old saying is, and it's true, you should not be the smartest person in the room,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
If you are, then you're around the wrong people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's actually an art and a science to know the talent mix required for the mission you have for your company. Just because you
Mhm.
founded a company um, doesn't mean you get that 100% right.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's where it starts. So the question one must ask is, what business am I in, and what does this business require in terms of talent? Now, if you can't, and probably that's a question that's best answered by also seeking advice from others who may be doing similar businesses or different businesses, or asking different questions, and it's worth taking time to reflect on that, and then uh,
Mm.
sort of put together the team that complements each other, and that's not just in technical skills. That's important, clearly, um, but at the end of the day, the I call it the people factor. That's what makes it succeed or
Mm.
fail. You might have the best strategy,
Yeah.
but if you don't have the right people, and when I say the right people factor, um, it's such a subjective thing. But imagine a team where everybody's connected to the business and to each other from the heart. That you
Mhm.
know you don't have to watch your back, and you're all aligned behind a common vision. There are just channels are open. You can talk. Yeah, you can have fights, but it's never personal. It's all about business. If you have that kind of culture, um, then it works. Now, it's never perfect like that.
Yeah.
You'll never have. There'll always be pluses and minuses, but it's like being able to sort of
Mhm.
steer the ship uh, in that direction.
Yeah. I talk about this all the time on the podcast, but, the person that runs their business that reminds me of what you're talking about is Ray Dalio with
Hmm.
Bridgewater,
Hmm.
and he talks about radical transparency with each other. So when they are in meetings or they're doing reviews, they are, like, brutally honest with one another because they want the best version of you to come to the table, and B, Ray is big on an idea meritocracy where the best idea wins.
Hmm.
And so that's what's made him successful. It's basically what you're saying is just that, right?
Yes, and I guess we can discuss this at length. Sort of, I agree with all of those, but if we dig deeper and if we start asking questions, do we mean this? Do we mean that? We'll
Mhm.
probably uncover some other insights about it too. But definitely, I agree with all of that. And when we say, for example, we have to be brutally honest with each other. Um, Here's one thing I'd like to offer, which um, sort of adds depth maybe to what we just discussed. Um, at the end of the day, I really simplify it as this: um, you're working for a company. Are you every day? Are you in it for yourself, or are you in it for the company? But if you're are you in it for the company, believing that if the company succeeds, you will also succeed? Are you working with that mindset,
Mm,
or are you working with a more sort of narrow sense of self-interest? And there are
mm,
no black and white answers. We all have to watch our own goals for sure. But in
mhm,
the important moments, when you're making certain decisions, what weighs more heavily? This is a
mhm,
very critical question. So if you're being brutally honest with someone, if you're being brutally honest for their sake, that's great. If you're being brutally honest because you're venting off some anger or something like that, that's not so great. So there are all these
right.
gray areas in this. I absolutely agree with everything that you've said. I just wanted to add that depth, and that sort of flows through this book that I wrote, Soldiery, because that motivation to serve oneself is in all of us, but it has such shades of gray that if not managed, if we don't manage our own psyche to that effect, it really quietly and slowly starts limiting us. And that happens inside the company, that happens in life, that happens in families, that happens in communities.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, totally agree.
Mm.
One thing that I've always wondered, and I know it's different between large multinational corporations versus, maybe a mid-sized business domestically, but as president of Coke International, what exactly is the function of a president versus a COO versus a CEO? In your experience, I've always been fascinated with how those roles are kind of different across company spectrums. But in your experience, what would be the role of a president versus a COO, a CEO, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera?
So at the time I had that role, there was not a COO. In fact, instead of a COO, we had a president of Americas, a president of North America, and then president of international. So two of
Mm,
them sort of made the COO. But basically, the difference between a COO versus a CEO is COO is pretty much responsible for operations, operating roles, whereas CEO will also have um, functions such as marketing, such as finance, public relations. Um, in the COO role, you have primarily the field operations to you know sell, produce, etc. So that's the main difference, and between a COO and CEO. Then there's, of course, the chairman of the board that manages the board
mhm,
itself, and sometimes they combine chairman of the board and CEO role into one person.
mhm, mhm. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought, but I what I wanted your clarity.
Mhm.
I remember I remember watching an interview with Warren Buffett one time.
Mm.
I did not even think about this until he said this in the interview because Warren Buffett is an investor in Coca-Cola, and he said the volume of sales that Coke does, like per bottle, if you will, if they were to raise their price by 1 penny, because most people would not notice a 1 penny price increase, would be like over $1 billion of revenue to Coca-Cola.
Mm. Uh,
I thought that was crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure Warren used the right numbers. Yes, Coke, like many other consumer businesses, because there is just such high volume of small amounts of transactions, like one transaction is one bottle.
Mhm.
In businesses of that nature, yes, uh, pricing flexibility. When you can raise your price in small amounts, it does have a pretty leveraged effect, let's say. But at the same time, these products are pretty sensitive, generally speaking. And at the
Mhm.
same time,
Mhm.
the same goes for the costs of this business, right? If the cost increases by one penny, you have a pretty leveraged effect on your. So that's just the dynamic of the business that one has to manage every day.
Yeah, that was something else I read too, that a lot of times, like, because Pepsi and Coke do so much volume and sales, that they typically will keep their pricing very similar to one another, because if they go up, then it could be such a dramatic effect to the overall business that it could hurt. Like, let's say Coke increase their price, but Pepsi did not. It could be such a dramatic effect that Pepsi could end up winning more of a market share than Coke, even though it's a very small price increase.
Mm. Obviously, this is a very tightly regulated decision.
Hmm.
But in terms of everybody sets their price in the best way they think would work for them, and that process has some science behind it. If you have this much of a price difference, what will be the effect and all of that? And in every business, not just Coke, in every consumer business, you're aware of the price elasticity and you make your decisions according to that, your goals. Um, yeah, I mean, the free market has its own checks and balances that, yeah, that creates those pressures.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. So you wrapped up your career at Coke, and you've been doing some philanthropy as well as some mentoring, and you wrote a book now. So what is your focus now? Is it the book, trying to get the book out there and create some awareness around some of that?
Yeah, I'm spending now about 70% of my time, and I'm actually working full time, more than full time. I'm putting about like 45 hours a week. And about 70% of that is on the book. But it's really not just the book. Book is one sort of leg of this project. Um, I'm also working on an app, an AI app, which
Hmm.
makes which allows the user to use the book. So the this AI app could be like a life coach to you, uh,
Oh.
using the approach presented in the book. And my ultimate goal is that I really really believe in the framework that I've created, and I know that it will resonate with some people. It may not resonate the same way with others. With those this book resonates, I'd like them to apply it and see the benefits in their own lives. And
Hmm.
this is like a lifelong guide. So this is not a book you just read and put it on the shelf. You actually apply it. So my ultimate
Mm.
goal in this is to touch as many lives as I can with this book. And the thing that makes me happiest, and I've heard that once or twice when I was talking to some friends about this, and some people who've read earlier versions, when they tell me, look, it has changed this and that for me. That's the thing that makes me happiest. So I'm really looking at all the avenues through which I could get this message out, let people consider what it says, and be there to answer questions, give seminars, give speeches, get involved with universities and all of that, and just present this model and explain why this helps.
Could you kind of explain the model? Like, what's the process or the framework of your model?
Yeah, I'll just give you a top line, and you just tell me if you want to go into details on anyone. I'd be happy to do that. So,
Sure.
so it's really. the ultimate goal is um, that one should grow naturally. One shouldn't chase growth. Growth should happen naturally as part of your lived experiences. So, how that happens is just that what's the way of thinking one must embrace to make that happen? So, the book presents this way of thinking in a systemic way. And there are three elements in this system. First, it has a clear definition of growth. What does growth mean? So, it means becoming more capable, more impactful, and more resilient. So the whole model works to achieve that goal. And that's like as a human being, not in your profession or not as a father or a brother or a spouse. As a human being, becoming more capable, impactful, and resilient. Then the second part of this model is what I call the self map. So it's a model for what it means to be human. It's a granular and accessible way of defining a human being. Because if we want to grow as a human being, we've got to define what that is. So the model defines that. And I'm not going to go into the details now. Unless you want to talk about it, I'm happy to. Then the third element is the four acts of growth. So how do you grow that human being? What are the things you must do to grow this for life? So those are founded in four core beliefs of mine about what makes the biggest difference in one's growth. So that's how the system works. The goal is clear, self is clear, and what you need to do to grow is clear. And all of those are presented in a way that you can apply to any challenge you face or any nudging you have within you that you're trying to sort of clarify. Somewhere in this model,
Hmm.
you can find something that resonates and you can work with. So that's a brief summary of it.
So let's go in a little bit more detail. Let's take. I assume that your model can, let's just say, as an example, maybe help someone figure out what they want to be when they grow up.
Mhm. Okay.
What would that look like? Because ultimately, if you're trying to grow as a person, there's some level of maturity that needs to take place in order for you to figure out that decision, right?
hmm hmm Well, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah. hmm
No, you're okay. So I guess how would you counsel someone like that with your framework, or would this scenario even apply with your framework?
Um, it would apply. It would apply. Um, so obviously, the framework focuses on um, more fundamental human, uh, let's say, growing as a human being. However, the model can be used to apply in any life decision. So if you're
Mm,
15 years old and you're trying to define what you want to be, the first advice I'm going to give would be from my own. That's one of the
mhm,
most unfair decisions we face in our lives. So when I was 16 years old,
mm,
I wanted to be a doctor. Why did I want to be a doctor? Because everybody around me told me that I should be a doctor. And somehow I've
mm,
convinced
mm.
myself to get into the medical school and be a doctor. So I went into the college exam in Turkey, and you do like a ranking of where you want to go into. I missed the medical school by a tiny fraction of one question, and I ended up in business school. So I said, I'm going to try one more time. Tried one more time. Same thing happened. Missed the medical school by tiny. In like 5 years' time, I found out that I can't even look at blood. So, and when I got into business, nobody in Turkey understood what business was. What is that? What we understand what engineering is, but what's a bit? This is 1977 in Turkey.
Uh-huh.
So I felt like a complete
Mhm.
failure. So
Mm.
when we make that decision in terms of professionally, what we want to be in the future, um, we really don't know how we're going to feel about what we chose in 10 years' time. It's not knowable. We just don't know
Mhm.
it because we don't know
Mhm.
ourselves. We don't know those professions. We sort of make that decision. Now, in a
Mhm.
practical sense, first I'm going to establish that. So try to put that decision in perspective. Now, you can practically approach this by looking at some general areas that you feel more comfortable in. Are you better in math, science, or are you better in more social things? Then I'd say, look, first of all, step one, get to know yourself better. Identify your
Mm.
strengths. What are you good at? What are you struggling with? So that's step one. I'd say step
Mhm.
two, try to find out more about those professions. I'm sure you have people, friends whose fathers may be in different businesses. Yeah, chat with them for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Try to collect that information. Then reflect on it.
Mhm.
Then I'd say, um, you know, choose based on that. But most likely, younger generation of today will have, I don't know, maybe 10 professions by the time they stop working because everything's. My
Right.
father
Yeah.
had one profession all his life. I had three. I
Yep.
had three jobs. I was teaching,
Mm.
I was auditing and consulting, then I was Coke. My children will have 10.
Mm.
They've already had three or four.
Mm.
So building that
Mhm.
agility would be more important than trying to make that decision of what exactly you want to be, because you don't know, you can't know. You're not going to know how you're going to feel when you get to a certain point. So look at it more generally, make your choice based on that, but also do know that I never thought I was going to love business. I loved business. Um,
Mhm.
it's a little
Mhm.
bit of, I hear from some of the youngsters, so well, I'm not, am I going to love this? Well, loving something takes effort. If
Yeah.
so all of that. So that would be the probably the summary of the advice I'd give them. How would the model help people sort of get to this? Is it really, as you work with the model, you would sort of develop this kind of wisdom to face your life decisions.
Mhm.
I'd say
And this is where the AI app would help, right?
yes, absolutely. So right now, if you go to ChatGPT, it gives you some pretty good answers for a lot of good questions. But I've actually, tried it now with when I put the logic that's in the book with AI, with instructions given to AI. Yeah, it does a
Mhm.
pretty good job. It's as if you're talking to me, to the author.
Wow.
Now, not that
That's
I'm
cool.
not saying I didn't say that in a sort of a boosting myself way. No, but it's like it just reflects what I was thinking so accurately.
Sure. Sure. I think that's interesting what you said too, because um, using myself as an example, I took my love of working out and the gyms and bought gyms, right? It was a passion play. But there's a big difference between working in the field that you love and doing what you love,
Mm.
because working out is fun. Running a gym is not fun.
Uh-huh.
It's extremely hard and it's a completely different dynamic. And so you have to, and I think Steve Jobs even said this. Your passion has to be so extreme that you're willing to withstand all of the shitty days in business.
Yeah, a lot of resilience. What you said, my daughter said the same thing. You know, what you truly love and doing that as a business sometimes is not. Um, is it doesn't necessarily make a good business. Something like that, she said, I think. But I think I understand what you're saying. Um, yeah, business is requires a lot of resilience, but that resilience
Yes.
comes from within, building your inner self. So it's like
Mm.
you hit a nasty issue. Here's my day was like this. You wake up in Atlanta, 8 o'clock, or come to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's already 2 o'clock in Europe. It's already 8 o'clock at night. So most of the day has already passed, and you generally hear
Mhm.
all the issues, all the bad news. So you start
Yeah.
your day with a whole bunch of
Yeah.
issues and bad news. So if you don't manage your psyche for that, and you say, "All
Uh-huh.
right, enough is enough," and you just break down, there's no way you can get through this business. So
Mhm.
resilience is absolutely key.
That's yes, it is. I mean, that's literally why I named my gyms Grit, right? You have to
Yeah,
have grit. That's why the podcast is
that's
relentless. You have to be relentless. You have to be resilient. And it doesn't even have to apply to business. It has to apply to any goal that you're trying to achieve. Even if you want to be a good family man, a good father, you have to be resilient.
yeah. I had a technique for that. So I think about the way I feel, and I say, this is not how I want to feel, but I'm like tired, I'm pessimistic. So I say, this is not how I want to be. So I declare full time. I said, I'm in full time. I have fallen. So I actually set a goal for the full time. And I have two goals. First, I just want to get through this full time with minimal damage, because I'm not going to try to do
Uh-huh.
earth shattering stuff when I'm in full time. But the second thing is,
Mhm.
how long did it take for me to come back from that full time last time? Oh, it was a week.
Mm.
All right, can I do it in 5 days? So I'd set a goal for that. And that just did amazing things for me. And I kept practicing with this, just like you're practicing in a gym. Um, by the time I came to my last days in executive life, it was a day. I said, sometimes you just have a bad day, like one bad thing follows another. So my goal was get up the next day, and that I could do.
Mm.
Then I said, okay,
Mhm.
what if I have a bad meeting? Can I sort of get back up after that bad meeting? So what sort of routines can I have? And sometimes all you need to do is go to the washroom, wash your head, maybe hit your head, get blood going in your head, or do a little exercise, or do something.
Uh,
Try something, breathe
yeah.
out, whatever. And but at least having that awareness that you're in a full time and
Yeah.
you want to get back up does did a
Yeah.
lot of good, did a lot of wonders for me.
That's actually quite refreshing hearing, someone like you that was, had such a high level career that would still have those same feelings. Cause I think a lot of times, like us entrepreneurs, we think, man, we're the only ones going through this, right? You kind of feel like alone on an island, right? But then somebody of your stature goes through the same thing. You're like, okay, that kind of makes me feel a little bit better. That's not just me.
Oh, well, but I think what you guys go through is very unique. And, I come from a family of professors and, people who've worked for,
Mm,
for the state. My whole sort of extended family, everybody's professor. Me and my two brothers, we're the only ones who have gone into business, and that's as far as we've gone. I could not fathom being an entrepreneur, like creating something from scratch. Yes, I'm doing this book and this app now, but that's after I've had all that experience. But trying to, lead your life as an entrepreneur, I cannot begin to appreciate how difficult that could be, and I admire that.
mhm.
I admire how that builds people.
It does. It truly does. I mean, I think same thing for, you know, surprisingly, I didn't play sports when I was in like high school and stuff, I just wasn't good. But I think that sports do help build that resilience, right? Because you're constantly, not only you're competing against other people, you're competing with yourself, trying to become the next best version of yourself in whatever you're playing.
Yeah, and I played basketball for about 11 years. It wasn't professional in Turkey, but it was almost like professional, between ages 10 and 21. And, we had, you learn winning and losing. That is so important. Yes, there are
Hmm.
losses, but
Hmm.
how do you deal with the losses? You learn teamwork, you learn resilience. I mean, sports is just an incredible. I think that experience helped me a great deal in the business world.
Oh yeah, I could totally see that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you now the book is out, right?
Book's gonna be out October 28th. It's out for pre-order in Amazon and a couple of other outlets like
Okay.
Barnes and Noble. So yeah, it'll be out October 28th, and I'm beginning to. I've already begun to talk about it in LinkedIn and Instagram, and so I'm just giving little bits and pieces of it between now and then.
Are you hoping that the app will be out the same time as the book?
No, app will be probably early next year, and that I also have to
Mm.
say. The big unknown is, I've written all these instructions. They look beautiful. Um, I have the same problem like everybody else. I'm not sure how AI will behave against these instructions. So I'm thinking
Mm.
it's going to behave well. It's going to do what I'm asking it to
Mhm.
do. But it's
Mhm.
possible that it doesn't, and it takes more time. So my target is, like I said, first quarter of next year. But I just wanted this
Mm.
to be right. So if it needs to take a bit more time, it will. Because what this does is many people use AI to like a servant, right? Do this for me, do that for me. You know, uh, Write me this email, write me this response, create this
Mhm.
image. With this app, I think my vision is that AI raises to the level where it can coach us in a very
Mm.
meaningful way. So, given that, I just want to make sure that I don't put out a product that doesn't deliver on that, to my own satisfaction, at least.
I think it's a brilliant idea because especially like someone for me that, doesn't have really anyone to bounce ideas off of or what I should do with hard decisions, to be able to have an app that kind of looks at, like you said, a strategy that has real world experience that could kind of be your sounding board. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Like one of the functionalities in there is called Navigate Challenges. So I want this
Mm.
thing to do like, so you're talking to him. So tell me, Bo, what are you going through? So you basically either type it in or speak it in, however you want, and then it'll ask you. You want to test whether your understanding of the situation is right? It'll start there. So if you say, yeah,
Mm.
it's just going to ask you a whole bunch of questions. All it does, it just asks you a lot of questions. It doesn't give you the answers. It helps you find your own answers. That's what I want this to do. That's what a coach
Mm.
does. That's how
Yeah.
people grow. If you say, yeah, oh,
Mhm.
okay, I didn't catch that. So now, Bo, do you want to test whether the judgments you're making about are right? You say,
Yeah.
oh, okay, let's do. It'll bounce as many questions as you'd like, one at a time. So it'll go like that. And then it'll say, okay, I understand you're facing this situation, but do you really have a vision of how you want to emerge out of this? Well, if you say, I do,
Mm.
you want us to test your vision, whether it's like it stretches you enough, or if it's undoable, or if you don't have a vision, you want to do one together. So it'll walk you through all of these.
Mhm.
And if you have a vision, it'll say, well, okay, um, what gaps do you have to achieve your vision? What do you need to do? So it'll walk you through, but you're going to make all the decisions. It's the app is
Wow, that's
never going to make
fantastic.
decisions for you. It's just going to be there, sort of probing you and coaching you in this way. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'm
No, it makes
hoping
complete sense.
it'll do this.
I don't see why it couldn't. I
Yeah,
mean, it makes complete sense with
yeah.
yeah,
In
what
today's
you're trying to
AI
do.
and all the capability that's coming out, if it can't do it today, I know it'll do it today. But if it can't do it today, it'll do it in a couple of years' time.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, in fact, I created my first GPT a couple of weeks ago, um, and I used it for my marketing,
Mm.
just to trying to create some, continuity with everything that we're putting out. So, what I had to do was, I gave it all these instructions, and I told it, "Here's what I need you to do. Here's what I want you to, create content that's similar to these people because they're trending well right now and use give me direction on how the imagery should be, the thumbnail should be based on these people, and then gave it examples. And now when I instructed, okay, here's what here's the next thing, boom, it spits it all. It's amazing what you can do. I
Ah,
mean, they're saying now that like more millionaires are going to be made from AI than any other industry.
I believe in that. Absolutely, I believe in that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have constant debates with family and friends. Those who are very worried about AI. Yes, I mean this is not. I'm not um, blind to the risks that it poses, but and I
Sure.
also understand and appreciate that this is unlike any other technology. It like sort of gets in underneath our skin. It's unlike anything else.
Yeah.
But I think it's still, humanity will sort of find ways to deal with its downsides and regulations. And in the meantime, some people will suffer. But the upside um, of those who really embrace it, like you have, and use it for their
Mhm.
business,
Mhm.
is huge. Is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Case in point with your coaching app, that's gonna be amazing. I wanna be the first person to try that thing out. I think it's a fantastic idea.
Thank you. I'll Please tell me. I'll let you sort of play with it for about a year.
Yes.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Um, are you still doing mentorship or anything like that?
I do. I have one that is more formal, and then I have some
Mhm.
mentees who I have mentored some time ago who are still keeping in touch and calling me every now and then. In fact, it was so funny. In one of those
Mm.
cases, um, I didn't look at my book while I was mentoring, and and then we had like an hour and a half session. Then I just got off and started my walk on the street, and I went through my mind. I said, "Did I go through everything that I said in the book?" And so I realized I've done that to a great extent, except one step. I just didn't, so time didn't allow, or this one step I didn't do. I called this person. I said, "Look, we've done everything, but except, oh, that's what I wanted to talk about," and that was the piece. Yeah. So, um, but that was a good sign to me that I knew what I wrote, but it appears I
Yeah.
haven't internalized it as much as I should have for it to automatically come out.
Right.
That's the goal with this book, is
Right.
like as you practice with it, it sort of becomes your operating system. And it's not
Ah.
it's not dogmatic. You shape it according to your
Mhm.
own circumstances. So
I love it.
yeah.
I love it. I can't wait to read it. Amit, where can people find you, get a hold of you, learn more about you?
So on LinkedIn, I'm with my name, Ahmet Bozer. On Instagram, I'm on Book of Soldry, one word, Book of Soldry. Soldry is Soulgery. It's a word I invented that goes for self surgery of the soul. When I was thinking about what does growth feel like you have to grow yourself, right? You're doing self surgery
Yeah.
on your thoughts, and I called it self surgery of the soul. So Book of Soldry is on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn, and also Book of Soldry in YouTube. And Soldry is now in Amazon, Barnes and Noble. By the way, my website's supposed to be up any day this week, and it's going to be soldry.com.
Okay.
www. So those are the channels I could be found in. So for website, give it another week. It should be up.
Great. Ahmet, thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed talking to you. I'll be sure to add all of that stuff to the show notes.
And thank you so much, Bo. It was very nice meeting you. I will get the book to you before it's out because I can do that.
Great.
Yes, I'll. I
Great.
wanted to send one beforehand, but by the time I thought about it, it was too late. So I'm going to do that now. My PR agency will find your address somehow, and I'll have them send over a copy of Soldiery to you. And when the app comes, you'll be among the first ones who get a link.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, man. It was great talking to you.
You too.